40 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm the one you've been dreaming of. I got everything you could ever want. Try me in your sleep, I'll bring you to your knees. Baby, you're gonna believe.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Salt Lake Expositor. Randy went to all the time and efforts to make that, and we're airing it simulcast on his channel as well, the Post Mormon Project. And so welcome, everyone. Jessica, how you doing?
So far, so good. We keep partying it up. Now it was the last day for our middle school kids. So, you know, you have to take the parties as they come. How are you?
Doing okay. I have a dentist appointment tomorrow, and so we'll see if they can fix it prior to me getting this set of teeth are just like the beginner set or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Supposedly not made very strong anyway, so
Okay.
we'll see what happens.
Keep our fingers crossed for you.
And so, yes, so we got the, we're going to run a couple of other little fun things first before we get into the dollars falling on Jesus' stock portfolio. And so let's do the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Mormons are so weird. I recently had a day in Utah after a snowless ski trip with some friends, so I decided I'd kill time before my flight by going to see the Joseph Smith Sphinx. We were staying in Park City, so I grabbed all my stuff and drove a quick 40 minutes to Salt Lake. On my way in, though, I saw a billboard for tulips at the Grand America Hotel. I added that to my to-do list, too. So after finding parking, I made my way into the Mormon Museum. I saw portraits of Joseph Smith, and the more I learned, the more it felt like some guy just made a bunch of shit up, and other people just kind of believed him. If you're not familiar, here's the gist. Joseph Smith found some golden tablets, said the Bible was incomplete, and that if you're good and spread the word, you can become a god in the afterlife and preside over your own worlds. Mormons have to give 10% of their paychecks to the church. That's probably why there's so many banks right around the temple with biblical names. I imagine the Mormon church just getting richer, growing and growing, taking money from its members until it reaches up into the high heavens, where they'll be so close to God, they won't even think about the people below. Honestly, I prefer tulips. I went to the Grand America Hotel and I wasn't disappointed. They really had so many everywhere. I was stunned. I walked around their empty hallways, getting lost, and find my way back into the courtyard to look at these beautiful flowers. They only bloom once a year. They sprout up quickly in the spring and make fiery displays that only last for a few weeks at most before dying, and then they hibernate again until the next year. Talk about a resurrection. It got me thinking. So many people within the LDS community look at their church, at the resurrection, at their prophets. They spend their time, they spend their money. They won't drink tea, let alone coffee or, God forbid, alcohol, just to get into some afterlife that isn't guaranteed. All of this when right in front of them, there's a resurrection that happens every year. I wondered why people would spend so much energy for some later heaven when heaven's already right here on earth. And as I entered the Gilgal Sculpture Garden, I found it, the Joseph Smith Sphinx. And all I could think was, who needs God when we've already got tulips?
Who needs gods when we have tulips? I guess the Dutch figured it out a long time ago.
Yeah, the tulips I never thought was going to be such a popular sort of transcendental, whatever you call it, thing for him. But my wife married me because I have two lips.
Here you go.
If I had three lips or one lip, it wouldn't have gone well.
It's a good fit how he recognized the wealth of the church, right? And how he's wondering, like, all those Mormons who spend so much money and then thinking of an afterlife that might be not. But the problem is that I feel a lot of religious people or Christians really don't understand is Mormons truly believe that's not a question. That's it, right? That's the heaven. What they taught, that's it. It's reality. It's a fact. They want this. This is it. They might agree that they don't know everything, but what we know is certain. And that's the problem. But once you step out of this, right, or somebody who's never been Mormon, like this guy, it's just like kind of like, are you sure? Are you sure?
That's right. We have to tell people why Randy's not here.
Oh, yes. We
So you
should
go
have
ahead
said.
and tell people why Randy's not here.
He is in Party City, Vegas, and meeting up with some friends, as I understand. And it's hard to get some privacy, and we totally respect that. We want him to party. So he says hi. He might jump in or not. We'll miss him a lot, but we totally happy for him partying it up.
Yeah. Do you remember he gets to have dinner with Kirsten of, do you remember what their channel is?
Nope.
Kiki and Megan, the Snark, Mormon Snark.
Yeah, something was, I can't look it up. Okay, good.
So, and what was the other thing I was going to play?
Oh, I can play that from now on. That was
You can play that one.
Was it Outer Snarkness? Is that them?
Yeah, Outer Snarkness.
Outer Snarkness, yeah. They're funny. Good humor. Like it a lot. Okay, so I found, if you guys know Stephen Hassan, he's a cult expert, really like known for his knowledge. He was himself in a cult, the Moonies, if I remember it right, like it's a Asian kind of big cult or something, right? And he came across a Mormon content creator and saw a lot of red flags. And I always enjoy when people who have no skin in the game share their opinion, and especially a professional like him. I'm pretty sure some Mormons don't like him, but he's neutral, like I said, has no skin in the game, and is just sharing his ideas around this. If you can play that video.
All right.
About this very sweet chocolate chip cookie maker from the Mormons, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And there's a few reasons that I actually love the principle of obedience. I believe that God can see the beginning from the end. He knows everything that's going to happen to us, and he has a perfect playbook that if we follow his guidance, that it will lead us to a book of my mom's. And when I follow this exactly, it comes out perfectly every time.
Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Hassan, cult expert. Yes, I wrote The Cult of Trump, Freedom of Mind, and Combating Cult Mind Control, which includes a story about an ex-Mormon. So many comments I want to make. First of all, life is not about obedience and like a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. No, I'm sorry. It's not the same thing. Human beings are supposed to have free will. We are supposed to be able to think for ourselves, make decisions, and the whole notion that they follow a prophet like Moses or Abraham, She obviously hasn't read the Bible and really doesn't know very much, apparently. And the notion of personal revelation, God, there's so many people on so many religious groups as well as wards on psychiatric facilities where people think they're prophets and get revelations directly from God. Let's use our critical faculties that God gave us. Let's reality test. Let's realize that God doesn't have a predetermined plan. In fact, the founder of the Mormons was a pedophile and a fraud, and the entire organization is one of the wealthiest businesses on earth, and they make people tithe, and she's so happy making her chocolate chip cookies. What do you think? Put your comments below, because I really have issues with this kind of sweetness. What do you think?
Gene, what do you think?
So I actually don't have issues with sweetness because every day is Halloween for me. But yeah, it's interesting. You know, there's things that you don't see when you're in it. Nobody thinks that they're in a cult until they're out of a cult. They think they were in a cult. And so anyhow.
Yeah. And the sweetness to me always, like, as another thing I learned leaving Mormonism is it's almost like Mormonism only knows one flavor, and they haven't learned to experience other flavors because, you know, like bitterness and alcohol, you cannot experience as a Mormonism, or coffee. That's another experience in Mormonism. Oh, I kind of got stuck here. Sorry. But so that's one thing I find now hilarious. It's also this kind of level of childness, being stuck in a certain way as a Mormon, this naive, you know, only sweet stuff are sweet. And then this typical, like, that's all adults want, cookies. I mean, I know so many adults who don't even care for cookies. Like me included. I don't care for cookies. There's other sweet things I like. I'm not saying I don't like sweetness, but then to me as a woman, what I saw first, that woman who made cookies was skinny. So that's the other thing in Mormonism, how many women, like they're all about sweetness and swig and, you know, those junk drinks in gallons, but then point the finger if you're drinking healthy coffee. And yet she's so skinny. Maybe she's healthy and working on it, but there's a ton of Mormon women who struggle with their body images, starve themselves, and yet she pretends, you know, if she would make so many cookies and eat them, she would not look like that. But it's this double standard. And really, like he said, it's like, no, that's not how life is. Life is way more nuanced. Life is way more complicated than just follow the recipe. But it's so on point with Mormonism. Mormons, almost like Germans, we like to follow rules. We want rules, you follow it, and then nothing can go wrong. And that's just not life.
There you go. Speaking of skinny and somebody that used to be in a cult, we'll say hi to Diamond Dave. Did you want to talk
Nothing
about
wrong.
the whole thing?
Oh, we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, let's
about
start
the
with
whole
that,
thing.
and then I'm going to run the story about the.
So I
30
actually
million
disagree with Steve Hassan here, and I've followed him and I've watched his videos, and he's like, these are his opinions, right? And this is what gets me is he, like every other human being, is not qualified to say what life is about, because for him to say life is not about obedience, that's not actually true. We have to obey social contracts to have society. We have to obey local laws, federal laws, international laws if you travel, right? So obedience is a part of life. I think what he does is and this is just my opinion, but he does seem heavily biased towards such things because of his experience in the Moonies, which is fine, right? That's not his thing.
Right, and I can
But
give
for
him
him-
grace. He's talking about like blind obedience.
Exactly. I think he was just like,
But yeah, but I mean, even blind obedience, like we blindly obey laws, and like even half of the laws don't make sense. You know what I mean? So,
to me, it
There-
was
there's
more like
extremes.
the idea of Mormons. If you follow the recipe, everything is well.
Mhm.
Nothing can go wrong. And then I agree with him. That's a very naive, childlike thinking that life works that way. You can do everything right in life and follow every law, and still a drunk driver can hit you and
Sure.
you're handicapped, right? And you did everything right. Life is way
Sure.
more complicated than if I follow, even if I, as a, let's say, good citizen, follow all the law, shit still can happen to me.
So
Exactly.
Dave, there
Now,
are
but-
cults that require obedience. What is different between the obedience that let's say the what's that group that killed themselves to go to the Halley's Comet or whatever it was?
Jones, Tim
Heaven's
Jones?
Gate. No,
Heaven's
no,
Gate.
It was,
Heaven's Gate,
It
yeah,
was
you're
Heaven's
right.
Gate. It was Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
What's the difference
Jonestown.
between their obedience and what you're talking about?
Well, so first of all, Heaven's Gate's a bad example. I would go with Jonestown in this one, not Heaven's
Okay.
Gate, because all of them actually believed it. Like they fervently believed it. And that is the difference, right? Blind obedience is when you you do it, but don't actually believe in it. You don't have faith in it, and you don't like actually gain from it. That's what makes it like blind. You know what I mean? But when it comes to like really bizarre, and these are extremes, by the way, too.
Right. So the Heaven's Gate
Everything's
people knew what they were getting into, but the Jonestown people thought they were just going to make paradise and gardens in South
Well,
America.
so here's the thing about Jonestown. Some of them fervently believed it, like Heaven's Gate. But if you like watch the documentaries on it, there were actually people that wanted to escape, and they were actually gunned down, right? So there's the element of like force.
So definitely the gun down obedience is a cult, then, is what you're going to say, and not the
Well,
way
I haven't. Well, if you want to,
not the way humanity's supposed to
If
run.
you want to, I thought we were talking about obedience. If you want to talk about the term cult, the cult I have an issue with, because anything can be a cult. Sports
Right, because
can
I
be a
think the
cult.
context
Right.
is
But that's what
control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that controls part of it, but when it comes to obedience, and again, this is just my worldview. I see things differently. I don't have an issue with Steve. I think he's a good guy. But also too, it's like there's different dynamics when you factor in like life, for instance, right? Because when he's talking about Mormonism or any other religion, there's also he left out the afterlife. And my anecdotal experience is whenever someone does the cute little cookie recipe thing and says, you follow this and things will turn out fine. Jessica's right. You could be hit by a car, but if you follow the recipe, you will go to the celestial kingdom. And so that's why it works out in the end. He left out the afterlife part.
There you go. So
that's just my take. I mean, he's a cool dude. I mean, I like some of his stuff. I just don't agree with all of his stuff.
Sure. Yeah. And it's okay to have disagreements.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. So ready to run the story then? Story of the day?
Well, no, wait, let's do the Book of Mormon musical. And then
you want to do that
bridge
first?
Yeah. It's a bridge towards then money and success in the church. So the funny thing is, that's really just a little side note, is that 3 weeks ago, the Book of Mormon musical, no, do the video first, but wait, because it pops up right away. The Book of Mormon musical building in Manhattan burned down. Later, we learned it was just an electricity thing. It just was an accident. And a couple of Mormons.
It wasn't Satan.
Yeah, exactly. They were celebrating it, right? That's when the nastiness of Christianity comes out, and Mormons were celebrating that, oh, look, it burned down. I mean, for one, it's kind of humorous because, it took God 12 years or 15 years to finally burn it down. So let's listen to the video first.
Mormon musical in New York has now been shut down indefinitely because of an electrical fire at the theater. Mormons are constantly in my comments telling me that God will not be mocked. Apparently, he just takes about 15 years to get around to it. Because if you remember, when the Book of Mormon musical first came out in 2011, a lot of Mormons were very, very upset. The show was vulgar, irreverent, offensive, and worst of all, very, very viral. Back at the time, the Mormon Church ran an ad in the playbook that said, "You've seen the play, now read the book," which is honestly a pretty clever PR move, but I guess they ran out of those clever PR moves because now I guess they're just suing people when they don't like what they're doing. Back when I was still Mormon and I was on my mission, people would actually ask me about that musical pretty constantly and would say that they thought it should be required viewing for real missionaries. I mean, still, whenever I talk about the Mormon Church online, I swear like every video I ever post has someone commenting, referencing the Book of Mormon musical. But now, after all these years and about 5,000 performances, an electrical fire has damaged the theater, and the show is going to be closed for an unknown amount of time, which is a bummer because I was hoping to go soon. Maybe God will not be mocked, but apparently he will just let the mockery run for about 15 years when 9 Tonys make $85 million, and then he'll intervene through lighting equipment.
I just thought it was a good.
So the church, I just made it thought something really quickly. The church could do a thing saying, "You've seen Alessa Grenfell. Now see what she loved as a teenager. Come to the church." So go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah. So she made this quite timely, right? And even she said back then it wasn't certain when it opens up. And so just yesterday I saw the Salt Lake Tribune saying the Book of Mormon musical in Broadway is reopened. And I was like, isn't that the real miracle? 3 weeks later, they're up and open and running for their 15th anniversary. So what would Mormons say to that? And let's see, if the Mormon God is not being mocked, then how can a show like this be so successful? Because, that's the other thing, the Mormons, which we will talk in a minute, on the one hand are so happy about their church being so successful, but let's see how successful the Book of Mormon musical is. So tap the first page. Yeah. Do you want to read it, Gene?
There's a reason the Book of Mormon won 9 Tony Awards, including Best Musical and a Grammy for Best Musical Theater Album when it took Broadway by storm in 2011. And there's a reason it's still playing at the Eugene O'Neill Theater in New York City, where it is currently the 4th longest running show on Broadway and the 10th longest running Broadway show of all time. It has toured the country 3 times and has been seen by more than 20 million people worldwide.
Yes.
That's almost the population of the church.
Exactly. No, it's more. Think about it, right? And we always, exactly, take that 17 million. Even then, it should be embarrassing, right?
Well, I'm just saying 3 million were church members and they left early, so they didn't really see the whole thing.
Yes, but we all know, right? Like theoretically, the activity number is, if we're gracious, 3, 4, 5 millions worldwide, and 20 million people have seen the Book of Mormon musical. I mean, that by itself is like, where is your God who doesn't want to be mocked? And now he just burns it down and thinks that's it. That shuts them down.
And where'd you see it and when, Jessica?
Hmm?
Where'd you see it and when?
I seen it in 2022 in Manhattan. I seen it in London. They have a fixed theater as well. And I seen it in Austin when they were a year later. So every year almost when they were on the road, and I have seen it in Austin.
Dave, have you seen it?
At home.
The Book of Mormon musical? No,
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
Do you have the tape and you sing the songs while you're driving?
Me?
No, Dave.
What? We don't have a car.
You don't carry a boombox with you?
No. Okay.
We can give a taste. Do the next.
So
video.
I saw it on my birthday in 20.
Oh.
I think 16. I convinced my wife that it'd be okay to take me, and she at the time was going to church, and I was not going to church.
Wow.
And she was kind of miffed that I tricked her into going, but she thought that the songs were and the performance was entertaining. Right.
Good. Yeah.
She just didn't know about some things. And one thing that stood out to me is one of the songs talk about going to Mormon hell or something like that. Or
the Mormon hell dream.
The Mormon hell dream, right?
Yeah.
And at first I thought, well, that's not right. There's no Mormon hell. And I realized what Mormon hell is.
Yeah.
It's when you steal a pencil from work without realizing it. It's when you walk when it says don't walk. Every little sin that you do prevents you from going to heaven, the upper part of heaven.
It's the fear, right?
And I realized that that's the Mormon hell.
Yes, correct. I had a T-shirt on where it said, "I'm outer darkness material" when we went to the musical.
So here's some stats.
Yeah, so just some stats. It did, like she mentioned, over 800 million worldwide. Then that I thought was fascinating. So West End is in London. They grossed 3.2 million pounds the very next day when they started, the highest single day sales in Broadway and West End history. It has been seen by over 20 millions, like we said, in multiple countries. And if you want to, we can give them a little taste. That's the video down there. It's really short.
You have another video?
Yeah, at the end of,
Of Africa, we all have a saying. Whenever something bad happens, we just throw our hands to the sky and say, Has Adiga Ibowai.
Does it mean no worries for the rest of our days?
Kind of. We've had no rain in several days. Has Adiga Ibowai. And 80% of us have AIDS. Has Adiga Ibowai.
What the Mormons don't know, but soon will find out, is that the locals are flipping the finger at their Heavenly Father.
F you to Heavenly Father? Holy moly, I said it like 13 times!
It is rude, crude, lewd, and blasphemous, but it hasn't kept critics from proclaiming the Book of Mormon the best Broadway musical in a decade.
And in this part of...
That's it.
Okay.
But it's kind of goes full circle with the cookie lady, right? It's like when he said, does that mean like, everything is well in Zion? That's what Mormons want. They want to live in this childlike stage of, if you follow the rules, if you just do everything to the T, then everything will be well in Zion. And that's just not life. It's not being an adult in this world and understanding nuanced. And so that was just my little tweak to success, and then success or not success in the Mormon church and finances.
Was that last thing from like a 60 Minutes report or something? It seemed like a news story.
Yeah, no, I think it was just a person making that. It's not a news story. Yeah.
And Dave, it's not playing in Ulaanbaatar.
No, we have standards here. If that 30 seconds was any indication of what the Book of Mormon musical is, I don't want to see it. We have standards here.
Do they have live entertainment things that you go to there?
I mean, not like that. No, I mean, like, it's not. I'm sure there's something.
They have
there's
bands
like
performing
acrobats and stuff. Yeah, there probably something somewhere
in bars.
I mean, there's
Yak milk
karaoke.
bars.
There's karaoke in bars,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to say the least, because like Mormons specifically, to Jessica's point, like, and maybe part of the reason why there's a disconnect here is because like it's very different in many parts of the world and just how I was raised, because Mormons are raised with a childlike, it's very infantilized.
Yeah.
Whereas like the way I was raised, even as an adult, is if you obey the state, you get things in life. You get social status. So it's like, for adults, right? It's not childlike at all. So maybe that's the disconnect in beliefs here. But
yeah,
Book of Mormon musical looks it's something. I'll give it that.
It's definitely, I love it. There's so much more to it. I think the essence isn't even in that little snippet, right? It's like, so the African guy is telling him 80% of us have AIDS. Like, we have real problems. And then here comes those two teenagers thinking they can save Africa with a book that says literally nothing about that. There's nothing, no proof of concept. Sure, Mormons can believe in their blessings of the sick, but I have never heard of a Mormon blessing somebody from AIDS. So, I think that's just the contrast that music really well shows. Those naive colonizing Mormons thinking they can give Africa hope, but they have nothing. And they don't even want to put money to their mouth, right? They just want you to read the book, get baptized, and that's pretty much it. Because the power and money stays in America.
That's true. And I think too, the difference is, for the reason why it doesn't resonate with me, is because like people who are born and raised in the church, right? They're very sheltered. And then they see this, and like the guy said, it's lewd, it's crude, it's whatever. And I'm watching it like as a convert, right? I'm like, dude, I've seen South Park, I've seen Family Guy. This doesn't even come close to half of the shit I've seen on South Park. You know what I mean?
Those are the South Park creators that did the Book of Mormon musical.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, that's good to know. But I mean, just like if you compare the two, like Family Guy and South Park are like way off the chain compared to that. It's more tame. But if you're like, born and raised and you're sheltered, and so it's like shocking and funny, and I get it. I've seen worse on the internet. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think
I am desensitized. You have to do a lot to really.
Oh no, that's not. I don't think that's the purpose of the musical. It's really like, I wondered sometimes. I truly wondered, like Gene said, if a believing Mormon would go into it. It's still too much profanity. I get that they can't deal the F-bombs, but I still wonder, there's so much, like you said, Dave, you weren't even like shocked, right? And that's what I'm thinking. There is so much really truth. They hit it on the nail. We're like, yeah, but isn't that it? You send two boys to Africa who are clueless, and then Africans are just telling you, we have way bigger problems, and can you solve them? And kind of answering their own questions. And then, like the insult was more, they were saying in Afrikaan the whole time, fuck you, God, literally. But they didn't understand it because they didn't speak Afrikaan, right? So for Mormons, that's already very blasphemous. For you and me now, we're kind of like, that wasn't bad at all. So I think
I'm remembering I'm just remembering the Call of Duty chat lobbies in high school, where the moment you see everyone's gamer tag, it's just racial slurs and death threats. Just thrown into the ether, right? But I get it. And I mean, I do find that I do like that aspect about what I just saw, like the Book of Mormon musical. I think they did a really good job of like portraying like, two white kids being thrown into Africa and they're just clueless. You know what I mean?
And
I did think that was good.
The one kid didn't even want to go. He wanted rather to go to Orlando. He was like, what? Africa? When they get their calling. So to show those kids don't even want to go there and do that mission work. You know what I mean? They just want to get their praise, want to come back, marry, and move on, right? And ideally, just some soft landing. Africa is not a soft landing for a 19-year-old boy. You know what I mean? So
it sounds like, from what my anecdotal experience, it sounds like none of the missionaries are happy, because the ones that want to go to Orlando, they get dumped off in Africa or dangerous countries. And then the one who want to go to Africa or other countries are like, hey, guess what? You're going to Idaho. Like people on both sides get screwed. Nobody gets
for sure. The same as Germany. When kids get their calling to Germany, first they're excited because it's kind of like Europe and you learn a different language, but then they go to Germany and notice people really have no interest in your religion whatsoever. They don't even let you in the house. You're
Except
not
as a
successful.
novelty, right?
Yes, exactly. So you're right. You kind of screwed either way, but that's the if you think about the purpose of a mission is really just to clamper more down, to make those kids like, I just want to go home and be Mormon in Utah again.
Yeah, and they don't do the musical, Book of Mormon musical, like a National Lampoon kind of like rip them to shreds.
Yeah, no.
Everything's a joke. It does have a good story,
Yeah.
and its songs are good, and the acting is usually pretty good.
Yes, for sure.
And so anyway, so to introduce our titular story that's in the title, we have, if you haven't heard it yet, John Dehlin on Fridays is teaming up with Megan Hayes of Generally Unquotable to do sort of a weekly roundup recap of the news, and I'll play how they introduce this.
Let's go to the next story.
Okay, the LDS Church's stock portfolio loses billions again. Here are the latest numbers. That's the headline. And I don't know about you, John, but every time I see something about the church's stock portfolio, I mean, even putting those words together just drives me mad. And I can't help but think if they're losing billions of dollars, and it's really just not even a problem for them, why did I not, buy some shoes for my kindergartner when I needed to? Instead, I paid tithing. Like this is one of the areas where I still can get those feelings of rage when it comes to the church.
No, there's always that sort of what would Jesus do? And then there's sort of the derivative of that. Who would Jesus sue? Like referring to the lawsuit against me. Who would Jesus sue? And we need to have you need to have a t-shirt, Megan, that says, what stocks would Jesus buy?
Yes.
What stocks would Jesus sell? I mean, the Book of Mormon condemns consumerism and
well, that's good enough for now.
Yeah, don't get a copyright strike.
Yeah, so Diamond Dave, you're a banker.
Yeah, I worked at Wells Fargo for about 6 years, and then I have a couple of years of financial services consulting experience outside of that. So I believe they lost like $3 billion US dollars, which sounds like a lot. But when your net worth is $300 billion total in assets, well, that's a 1%. Like nobody cares. But also too, what people don't understand is you can actually make money off of stock market losses through put options and short selling. And often what what corporations will do, and what I'm positive the church will do, because it's a corporation, they do something called hedging, right? So when they'll buy a stock expecting it to go up, but they'll also take the opposite position, like short sell it as an example. So if they go down, they still make money somewhere else and mitigate the loss, right?
It's like an insurance policy.
Right. Yep, exactly. It's like an insurance policy.
And
but
do they have to report those things anywhere?
Yes, they do have to report it.
Okay.
Now
we only know about the loss because they have to report their
and 501c3s. I don't remember. I know corporations have what's called a 10K report where they show all their accounting and their losses and their gains, right, and their taxes, right. And this is my next point: is losing $3 billion can actually benefit the church from a tax perspective because they can write that off as a loss. So, and it would not surprise me if they're double dipping in that they are writing off like labor hours, right, of like volunteer hours. They're reporting that as like part of their assets, but it would not surprise me if they're writing that off as a loss as well, because time does have a monetary value. So you can write that off too in other ways, and that gets very complicated, borderline outside of my pay scale, but I do know you can do that.
I know from the widows.
Do you know very much about Ensign Peak, Dave?
I know bits and pieces. I haven't followed them like financially.
Just what you've seen on Mormonism Live? Pretty much, and like things that pop up on the internet. So I looked at the SEC,
like the SEC documents and like all that. And I don't personally buy the argument that, and this is just my personal opinion, right? From what I've seen, I don't buy the whole somebody filed something late or incorrectly, because like that would not fly in a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Like I used to work at Wells Fargo, right? So if like the accountants for Wells Fargo who are involved at a government level with taxes filed something late, that would be the end of their financial career. That they might even get sued because of the monetary losses, the damage that it does to the company, right? I personally don't buy that.
Right, because what you're
but
talking about is the church didn't file their 13F filings, whatever it is, for the SEC.
Correct.
And so the Ensign Peak Advisors got fined $4 million, and the
Yeah.
presidency of the church got fined $1 million.
Well, they
No,
also
no.
didn't do it for over a decade, right? They didn't
Right, yeah,
file
that's
it for
actually-
over
that's-
a decade.
And I will say that's actually a low amount, because while it sounds like a lot and while it's on the higher end, when you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar corporation with 13 LLCs that are, you know, making hundreds of millions of dollars, that's really a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Right,
you know,
except
there-
for that 13F filing is the largest on record for a 13F filing, misfiling.
Yeah, and even yeah, and it's going to be proportional, right? Like if a small LLC or a small corporation doesn't file a 13F, they will get a proportionate to their like size and scale.
Right,
It just
tens
so
of
happens
thousands
that
instead of millions.
It was also
Exactly.
the first and only church who got sued too by the SAC.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know
So-
about that.
Yeah.
But that's
Lots of
probably-
impressive stats, so to speak.
Hey, I mean, the
Yeah.
church wants to be number one, and it's making
Yep.
number ones all over the place. so-
Certainly it
But-
is.
Now, what I will also say too is that having shell companies is not illegal. It is
Yeah.
not illegal. It is part of the global financial system. And that's how not just the church, but that's how global corporations operate. You think about, like, for those of you who have kids that play video games, Sega Genesis, right? You remember the really old Segas, the Sega Genesis, the big gray boxes? Well, that is actually a shell company, right?
Yep.
It started in Korea, but in order to get it into Canada and then subsequently the US, you have to create a subsidiary company. So, and 501(c) and 501(c)(4)s, they can do that. 4Cs, right?
Yeah.
They can do that.
What I
you can
learned
do
though
that.
is, which was odd, that they had those shell companies, and the head of each shell companies were members, obviously, and they were just told to sign it, even when they were asking, so what is the paper saying? They're like, don't worry about it, we got it covered, we just need your signature, so that it looks like there were different managers over every shell company. It wasn't. It was always the first presidency.
Mhm.
So it's just a lot of gray. We're not saying, you know, they were breaking the law right and left, but, you know, for a church
Yeah.
who wants the utmost truth from every member when it comes to tithing, right? It's not 9%, it's not 8%, it's 10%. And wait a second, I'm stuck. Yeah. And every year you have to do a tithing declaration as a member, and yet there for years just forget to do it. It's just, you know, a punch in the gut for members, where I feel like, wait a second, I was, you know, you get, you know, hampered down and have to even maybe pay tithing later or afterwards or whatever to get into the temple, and yet they can just say, you know, we kind of forgot, we did it this way and that way. It's just odd for a church who claims to have such high standards.
Yeah, and I mean, I do agree with that. Also, you do also comparing the church to members, like I definitely agree with that, and 100%. When it comes to like financial law and accounting, comparing a church like the size of the LDS Church to an individual is really, really hard to do.
Oh, no,
if
for
not
sure not.
impossible, because it's just completely different dynamics.
Yeah. It's just the
and I
morals
mean,
kind of.
yeah, and I mean, like the average person, and I've helped people set this up when I was a small business banker in Minnesota, is what you can do legally is if you have a small business, you can set up your own nonprofit and you do nonprofit things. So what you do to reduce taxes is your business donates to your 501(c)(3) and gets a tax write-off. You donate to your 501c3, you get a tax write-off, but you can also legally draw a salary from your own 501c3. So you can like literally just kind of like spin the bucket, right?
Right.
You can like churn it, and that's what the church does on an international scale. And
Yeah.
that's why it's, you know, like Gene was saying earlier, right? We're not dealing with tens of thousands of dollars kind of going
No,
in a
yeah.
circle with one person. We're dealing with billions of dollars internationally.
But then the other thing that I thought was so fascinating to me back then is the reasoning, right? When the first presidency had to make a statement, and their statement was, at least the two that was like to me a big red flag, was like, once, why didn't you tell the members? Oh, because we were worried they wouldn't pay their tithing. Why are you so worried? If the members would know how much money you have, they're not paying their tithing. And then second, how is that free will? Let them decide for themselves. And then the other reasoning was, we need so much money because literally it's in the writing for the second coming. And you like, I mean, I don't know how anyone is like, wait, what? Jesus needs billions of dollars when he comes
Well,
back.
and I think this is where I give credit where credit is due, and I'm going to cite Ward Radio here, because Ward Radio has always been make it a trillion, keep doing it, do it more,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And I think that because the Mormon Church is trying to play both sides, they're trying to cater to the Orthodox side, like Ward Radio. They're trying to cater to like the nuanced progmos, like the progressives, right? They come out with these statements, right?
Yep.
Just from a purely financial standpoint, when it comes to the monetary goal of building wealth, this is a case where you double down and you take the Ward Radio position, right?
Yeah,
I mean, other religions do this. Muslims do this with their oil fields, you know. In
Scientology
India,
does the same thing, yeah.
Scientology does, Hindus do. I mean, like, we have temples made of gold, and some of them, the temples alone are valued at $1 trillion, not including the land, not including whatever's inside of it, right? People double down on this. So it's interesting to me that the Mormon Church wants to like play these PR games when financially the best move is just to double down. I mean,
Yeah, for sure is.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, to me, like, I grew up, right? I mean, I think you all remember, I think last time we talked about in the 2000s when they stopped paying janitors and the members had to clean the churches. And the reasoning, at least was in the background, was kind of like, we want to save money, you should be also responsible. So again, I'm not saying anyone ever said it straight out, but my understanding was always there's maybe not that much money going around. And the only time active, totally believing Mormons finally learned how much was when the first time was at the Wall Street in 2018 something, right? The whistleblower. So, I mean, that's just the thing. How are you okay? Even if you're a member of a tennis club, you should know how much money your tennis club or country club does, what they do with the money, how they invest it, because it's your personal interest and it's your money. And then all of a sudden, when members slowly got to know, then all of a sudden it was like the best thing ever. Like, isn't that so great? Doesn't it show all the success? But I'm kind of like, well, just a year ago, you thought the church has not enough money. And that was also so righteous because look how humble we are now that, you know, we have more money than we need to. It's this, like you said, you're playing both worlds and they have to always double down the members and defend the undefendable. And that's just so pathetic for an adult where you're like, can you hold on for a second? You're defending both sides. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, just pick a side. Just pick a side. Before we get to Chuck, I just want to say real quick, this is why, even though I don't agree with Ward Radio, this is why I have and I want to be clear here, I have a level of respect for Ward Radio, Jacob Hansen, and other groups, because they double down and they actually stick to it. They find a hill and they die on it like adults do.
So now, you really appreciate the South then during the Civil War?
I mean, look, I this is just me personally. I appreciate authenticity and someone who has beliefs and like whatever those beliefs are, and they stick to it. Right? But I think even if it's like, even if they crash and burn, and I'm like, hey, this guy, at least they're consistent. The church is not consistent. Ward Radio and Jacob Hansen are more consistent than the church is.
That's I understand that, but I would differentiate.
They don't rely on tithing.
Yeah, I would say I absolutely agree. People should be authentic, even if I don't agree with them, right?
Exactly.
But to me, I appreciate more adults who are mentally flexible. If you get information that you are wrong, that I had an idea and I'm wrong, and I'm not capable, and I want to die on the hill no matter what, I have not respect for those
people who are eager to learn.
Yes,
Sure.
exactly. If you're authentic,
Sure.
I can deal with that for that moment, right? If authentically you think that's the true church that only does good, fine, stay
But
with
then
it.
when evidence is presented,
Yes, if you cannot
need
deal with
you to change
evidence
your
that,
mind.
yes, exactly, contradict yourself, to me, that's still a very childlike, naive, immature position to hold on to. That's all. That's
Sure. No,
Okay,
and
let's-
I
let's-
agree with that. Go
Let's
to Chuck.
welcome Chuck and see what Chuck has to say about what we've talked so far.
Are you all talking about people? I know I heard you talk about earlier about the Book of Mormon musical. I've never seen it before, but it's quite hilarious. And some of you talk about Kolob, and I think about the Osmond. You know, that was they named their record label after that, Kolob Records. And
Yeah.
now it comes to this. Now it comes.
Now they might name their record album.
This kind of sounds like it kind of sounds like people who are alumnus of these various colleges. They tell alumni to give money, and the thing about it, you want records of I imagine the people who are graduates of these schools. They want to know, hey, where's the money going that I'm giving to you? Is the money going to the place where it's supposed to be going? Is kind of like that what you all are talking about? I don't want to go off.
Right, transparency is part of it.
Yeah. Yes.
So we're talking about financial transparency is one, the church losing billions is another, and just the I would say, at least from my perspective, the debate of whether or not a Christian church morally or ethically should have billions of dollars in the first place. That's a debate going on as well. And then we're also talking too about like just finance stuff with the church in general.
And transparency, right? You're right. The one thing is
financial transparency.
Yeah. Should a Christian church have that money? That's, I think, a hard conversation to have. I would agree. Like it's a hard answer. Yes, no, I don't know. But the transparency, that's the bigger hurdle for me, where I'm like, there's only one answer. Yes, you should be transparent. You should be honest as you expect your own club members to be, so to speak.
So Diamond Dave, do you foresee Kolob crypto anytime soon?
That would not surprise me. I can see it wouldn't be done by the church, but I could see people who are like more orthodox of like my age or younger of the Ward Radio crowd or Jacob Hansen's crowd, like starting it. I can see that.
Right.
I mean, because there's something called, like when it comes to cryptocurrency, there's something called meme coins. Right, and they usually have no value whatsoever, but they're basically pump and dumps where people create them and a bunch of people buy in because it's hilarious, and then they sell off like I mean, well, that's NFTs, that's a little different, but I mean like Dogecoin, that got famous and everyone sold off at 69 cents because of what 69 means, and so I could see something similar happening on a more private level. I mean that what's that girl from Utah, Hawk Tua, like she started her own cryptocurrency and then got into legal issues because of that. Was ended up
because the Mormon church had Hawk Tua as one of their trademarks.
No, because she no, I don't even get the joke, but no,
that would be the opposite of the Mormon church doing a sexual reference.
Oh, but yeah, so basically what had happened was she started her own crypto, made off with a bunch of money, and it imploded, and she was investigated for like scamming people. Well, the investigation, to the best of my knowledge, she never faced any criminal charges because it was proven, allegedly, from what I've seen, that she legitimately did not know what she was doing. Right, so there was no intent to defraud. It was she did something. She had no idea what she was doing. Nobody knew what they were doing. And the people that were in it were just, it's speculative. And when you get into speculative investments, there's high risk. And that's, so buyer beware on that one.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that's fascinating to me more also is in general with religion, but obviously in Mormonism too. Let's say, okay, you're a successful organization and you make a lot of money. The question then to me still was, and I even harbored with that when I was a member, is, but how much should you give back? Because you're tax exempt because you're a religion. You're not a business, right? You cannot tell and you cannot, do anything for profit, so to speak. But at least what I understand, the Mormon Church gives 0.05%. I don't think any private person would, claim themselves to be very charitable if they give 0.05% to charity.
So,
where's that?
I mean, this
limit?
is, yeah, I get that. And this is something that I wonder too, because obviously forced charity is not charity, right? People should give what is good for them.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, the church gives like 1.1% away, which percentage wise is not a lot. However, when you're talking about dollar amounts in US dollars in third world countries, that does do a lot, right? That does do a lot. So, they do give away 1.1 billion to different projects and to different things. And this is provable. It's not nearly as much as they could be doing. But if you take 10 million of that dollar and 10 million US dollars and bring it to help people in Uganda, you can literally help 1/3 of the population when it comes to currency conversion rates, the US dollar, inflation, local things, right? So,
but be it as it may, that money is maybe more worth outside of the US. Is that still a right for you to hoard money, right? Because that money is still not going into communities, even in the US. So how is it just even, let's say that's right, it does do more in Africa or other countries. And then the question is, how much does the church invest in other countries? But is that then still rightful and righteous if, they're churches? So we have to take them by their moral standards and saying, therefore, it's okay to hoard most of your money and it will never see the light of day, right? I mean, that was the whistleblower, why he had such a hard time as a Mormon, Wall Street working for the church, where he's like, money came in and never went back out.
Yeah, and another aspect of it getting murky is there's two types of assets. There's liquid assets, which is cash, but there's also illiquid assets, which is like temple buildings and land, real estate farms, and these things that we know the church has.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of that wealth, obviously not all of it, but a lot of that wealth is wrapped up in illiquid assets. So it's very hard to sell a farm valued at $100 million as an example, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard to sell that.
Yeah.
So I feel like this could be more of a philosophical question as opposed to a finance question. Because you mentioned like hoard, right? So and that honestly, I tend to look at things from more a numerical perspective when it comes to finance, just because that's what my degrees are in, right? I can't answer what the church should or should not be doing. I would leave that up to the members, all of the members, the Orthodox, the Progmos, the Nuanced,
or maybe leave it up to their Jesus. And he said, if you want to go into heaven, he said the rich people should sell everything. That's their Bible. That's what their leader is saying. So obviously, like you said, this has nothing to do with real business, because it is not a business, right? At least that's the hill they're dying on, right? The church is not a business. It's the church, and it's led by the Lord himself. So, and that's why I have to take them, right? Because I hate when people compare in a way the church to a business, because it is not a business. They don't claim it. They're, like I said, get tax exempt because they're religious.
Jessica, you're saying this is not the MLM that Jesus set up originally?
Well, or it is the Mormon MLM.
Well, and the problem with philosophy, at least from what I've seen, just my time in Mormonism and just being around Christianity in general, is yes, you can make the case that Jesus said this, but you also have the parable of the talents when it comes to investing. You have different stories throughout the Bible where God blessed King David with an amount of insane amount of riches. King Solomon, who, yeah, he went astray because of all of his bazillions of concubines, but they were wealthy, and they, you know, David was the apple of God's eye, yet he
Right.
was stupidly wealthy, right? So like you can make a case for both sides, and personally, I leave that to more religiously and philosophically.
But that's a good
oriented
point.
people.
I think they're doing both sides. They're because the
Yeah.
hoarding
Oh, they
is
are.
putting the talent in the ground, but obviously they're also investing, or that's why they have so much, you know, coming back.
Yeah.
But they kind of do both.
Well, and they are, and that was kind of what I was hinting at, but avoiding, because, you know, I mean, there's a, you know, they're playing both sides
Always,
and
yeah.
and I mean, you can even argue from a biblical standpoint, they're playing both sides from the Bible.
Yeah.
So
Whatever
that's
beats the agenda.
I guess,
Yeah,
Alex,
and
you're
then-
6 pence, none the richer.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Bow your head
Yeah,
and
we
say
can
yes.
hear you.
Okay, good. What was the question?
We're just talking about finances, but it's basically a philosophy question of like, how much should the church give? Be it let's say percentage wise, because
What would
they give
Jesus
roughly
earn if
one-
he had a LinkedIn
you know,
profile?
right? So I mean, so like, the church gives like
That's a
the
good one.
church- well, yeah, the church requires 10% from its tithe paying members, but only gives like 1%, sometimes 2%. So like, what percentage philosophically should the church give, and what is the basis for doing so?
Yes. And also, like, we even learned, like, as the Mormon, you give also, what is it, fast offering, right, on every month? And
You
that
can.
was no, it was even taught you should, and if you do so, you should do it graciously, because there were some members who gave like very little, and then
How
the
much does
comparison.
2 eggs and bacon cost? And that's what
Exactly.
When I was a member, because when I joined and when I was a member on the LDS tools for like paying tithing and stuff, it literally says optional on the thing, and I was told
Well,
that's
but theoretically, you can say even tithing is optional. Every member would always tell you, you don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? But we all know then you don't get your temple recommend, right? With fast offering, you're right. That might be, you still might get your temple recommend. But for my husband, super conservative, return missionary, you give fast offering, and you do so graciously because you want gracious blessings coming back,
Yeah.
right? That was the
I mean,
logic.
I did that too because it's optional, but I wanted all the blessings. So it's
Yes,
it's optional.
exactly.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the fast offering. I'm gonna do the missionary one, and
Yes.
then there's one other one.
So Dave's
Right.
actually saying, Alex, if you were the prophet, how much would you donate every year?
The question you have to ask is, what qualifies as a donation? So if I were the president of the church, I would donate a shit ton of money into the education system. I'd build out more universities. That's a donation. Because each of them are chartered independently of the other. You can say that the church owns them, but they really don't. They pay for them. I would donate a lot of money towards companies that were founded by church members to build temples. I'd transmogrify all the meeting houses into actual churches, huge cathedral-sized churches. That's another bit of money that I could donate. And then, of course, on the back end, let those friends who own the companies that build those new temples or new church houses, I could be invested in them.
That's a good point. I always wondered, like when I was deconstructing, like I like in Texas, you can see a lot of Methodist and Baptist hospitals, right? That doesn't mean they rule over the doctors and tell them what to do. They're just financially invested in those hospitals. And I always wondered, why does the Mormon Church, at least in Utah, right, doesn't do that? Why is there not an LDS hospital or whatever?
I think there is.
There
I think
is.
there is.
Is?
Yeah, there
Hospital.
is. Yeah, there is.
One.
I was born in
One,
a Catholic
okay, here you go.
hospital in Monroe.
But here it's every corner. The hospitals are either Methodist or Baptist, and it's like all over the place. And I mean,
Yeah,
one
I was born
hospital in
Catholic
Utah
hospital.
does not impress me. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's a good point to what counts as a donation, because I mean that this goes back to what I was saying earlier, and this does touch on like some aspects of financial law is what constitutes a donation legally. And part of that is like willingly donating, right? Now, my question is, and I don't have an answer to this because it could go either way, but like in a court of law specifically, like a financial court of law, right? But I mean, like, if you are kept out of the temple because you don't pay tithing, is that technically a donation or is that more of a subscription fee?
Yes.
Because legally
Yes,
this matters. Legally this matters. If it is a tithing, like you willingly do this because out of the graciousness of your own heart, then it would fall under the 501c3. However, if you're doing this to get a service such as temple access, then it becomes a subscription fee and then you become a for-profit entity.
Yeah, here you go.
So I don't have an answer to that. That
Yep.
is above my pay grade. I would have to talk to lawyers on that.
There's a rule that for private foundations in the U.S. that they are encouraged, quote, to spend 5% of their revenues on distributions particular to their founding purpose. But that rule doesn't apply to churches. Churches can
Interesting.
accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, and they don't have to spend anything on anyone if they
Wow.
don't want to.
Sounds like Dagobert Duck.
Say something.
Well, and this kind of goes.
Frau Fenkel, most people don't know about the Germans' obsession with Donald Duck. So,
well, I was going to say to that point is the U.S. is really its own financial animal when it comes to like churches and stuff.
Yeah.
I know bits and pieces of like EU law, and you know I'm slowly making time to like study tax law here in Mongolia just because I'm curious and I'm a numbers nerd, right? But I mean, like in other countries, what you can do as a church in the U.S. does not fly in any other country. I know Germany, Norway, Finland, they have very, very strict rules. And even like if something, you could file all the paperwork correctly, you could still like be audited to pieces.
Oh, for sure.
Because yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see the difference. But in the U.S. specifically, the church is what is like kind of the untouchable thing. And that's why churches in general in the United States, if they have shell companies or like if they even have like, if they're 501c3 and they have foreign missions, they'll route money out and do a bunch of stuff, route money back in the U.S. as opposed to keeping it out. Otherwise, they'll get annihilated by local tax law.
Chuck, you wanted to say something?
Hey, I'm just listening to you all talking about that. The way LDS is run, it's kind of like the late Frederick Eichmann Carter, Reverend Ike. He said he want the money that crinkles, not the money that jingles. You all remember Reverend Ike of a certain age. I had to bring some humor into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue, Dave. I had to put some humor into it. That's what it sounds like, Reverend Ike, to me. About that money.
God is always needing money.
Yeah, and I will say this because
Creflo
again,
dollar, anyone? Creflo dollar.
Creflo Dollar, yeah, Atlanta, Georgia. Oh yes, that empire. Think about Dallas, T.D. Jakes, the Potter's House.
I have a Rolls Royce, and you, brothers and sisters, should be grateful you gave it to me.
Yeah. Isn't that fun how that works?
Hey, I want to say this.
Think about
that man. That man is honest and he's like in your face about it. I have no issue with it. If someone can literally take your money and be like, you should be grateful you gave this to me, he's being honest. So props to him. Right?
Yeah,
we know what he's about. But what I will say too, and this is
Dollar had his big jet.
Yeah, this is my personal pet peeve is to give credit where credit is due. This is not the Mormon Church's fault entirely. Yes, they have control over what they do with their money. However, the greater financial system out there allows them to do this in the first place. They are simply taking advantage of not just not just US law, but I mean European law, European finance, and other countries where there's even more loopholes in some cases, as well as strictness. It depends on where you go, right? So seemingly respectable finance, right? Which we, as the average person, assumes is respectable and regulated. It has been legislated to the point where even I, as someone on the internet, yes, I have degrees in accounting and finance, but even I, who's not a tax lawyer, I can find loopholes under the sun. I can
Yeah,
find
but
so
then
many tax
again,
loopholes.
I would
So,
struggle as a Mormon, being enough indoctrinated, hearing enough talks where I was taught, for example, when you go to the grocery store and somebody by accident gives you too much exchange, you better run back and give the money back, because that's how honest Mormons are. And again, we're having the standard of what the church teaches us, right? Again, it's not a
Yep.
business, it's a religion. So I expected, obviously silly, stupid, naive me, that my church would at least behave the same, if not even better than me,
Yep.
like human being and the enemy of God, and like natural man who keeps fighting with my humanity. I would think didn't they even call themselves often the gold standard of
Extra
things?
change
no,
would
and
be
I see, I agree with you 100%. And to
Yeah.
Haley's point, it doesn't make it
Boy,
right.
they're arrogant.
You're absolutely right, because this is where things get really interesting, and that's why I love these conversations, is because there's two aspects to this. There's
Yeah, absolutely.
there's the legal financial side
Yeah.
of it, which is my field, but there's also the ethical,
Yes.
moral
Yes.
field,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so this is where these two things intertwine, and they kind of rub up on each other, if not like fold in on
Clash.
itself, like
Yeah.
they clash in some cases,
Yeah.
right? And so the question is, right, what is right, which was kind of what we were talking about earlier. What is the right thing for the church to do? And I would take it a step further, because if you make a claim that something is right, there needs to be a basis for doing so.
Right.
So, and this doesn't just apply to the church. This applies to like March for Dimes, where they get billions of dollars in donations, but most of it goes to administrative fees, right? So the question becomes, from religious and secular, what is right and what authority deems it so? And then that's its own rabbit hole that we could spend hours getting into.
Which is also fascinating with the Mormon church, which I wasn't aware, because I grew up, like I said, in Germany, but I think outside of the Utah, it's kind of the same. Is in Utah, you have enough administration, like CES administrators, who get paid. Even seminaries teachers get paid. Outside of Utah, all of a sudden, it doesn't trickle as much anymore. It's all laid, right? You all do it for free labor, right and left. And that was
I've
why
heard
it was so
about that.
hard. Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's when it hurts, when
Yeah,
you're
we
like,
can.
why does my Mormon, pal in Utah gets paid for doing seminary, and me in Germany, or even teaching in Texas, doing the same amount of work, just do it for free. Same work. I even worked in the temple office for free. In Utah, you get paid. So that's just also where it's so unevenly and not fairly, even among the own members. The money doesn't really trickle down outside of Utah. And then I don't know if you guys remember, there's this book, Truth Telling. It's one of the 70s, Hans Matson. And he was a 70 authority from Sweden. And he said the first time when he went to Salt Lake and got taught by Hinckley back in the day, he was like scolding the Europe members or authorities and saying, where's the tithing from Europe? Because they knew members in Europe have money. And they're like, I don't care for Africa. Don't do missionary work in Africa because they don't bring us money. And that was Hinckley. And Hans Madison said he was shocked, because he was like, I thought we are in the business of saving souls and not how much money can each member bring in.
Well,
You know,
yeah, and
Gordon
this
King?
goes back.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
Chuck.
Chuck.
Were you talking about Gordon Hinckley?
Mm-hmm.
No. Well, this goes back to playing both sides, because the church plays a side of religion, but it also plays a side of finance. And
Yeah.
this is something that, even like as an outsider convert who still follows the church and still stays up to date with like financial law, and I still talk with people on occasion back in Wells Fargo, right? And it's like, what's your goal here? right?
Yeah,
Because if
exactly.
it's saving souls, that's fine. But then you've got this like financial things going on. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you're really concerned about money. And it's the reality is, and this is just my personal opinion as a non-Christian, is if you are a Christian and you are concerned with saving souls, what happens on this physical earth should not matter. Because
Yeah.
it's the afterlife that matters.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like
So
in Mormonism, it's almost like don't ask the church what the church can do for you, but what can you do for the church? And I feel like that's Mormonism to the T. It's always like, don't ask too much what they can do for you, because like you said, you get the afterlife. You get that
Yeah.
special kingdom with gold streets and villas and the big car or whatever you have in heaven, right? But what can you do right now on earth for us? And then going
Like a
back to
Bishop Round
Africa,
Table.
yes,
Stuff.
going
Yeah,
back
like
to
Greenleaf,
Africa,
the Bishop Round Table.
yes. But going back to Africa, they weren't good enough when it came to tithing. But now that they're good enough to show baptismal numbers, Africa is good enough to, go and do missionary work again, because it's the
Well-
only continent right now shining with baptisms.
Well, and here's the thing, Africa is now good for money, and here's why, is because Africa and India, right? This is something that the LDS Church learned later on, that other con artists like Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi learned in India, is you can rip off people, right? You can make a ton of money in India or in Africa by power of scale. Because all you need is, there's like, I don't know, there's a couple billion people in Africa, right? But if you could get hundreds of millions of people to give you $1 a month, just $1 a month, you make hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So it's the power of scale. And
Yep.
because Africa is now much more modern than it was in the 70s, right? Now you have people in Africa who could give $5, $10, etc. And when you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are able to do that, even if they're not members, they are willing to pitch into the various things that the church is doing. They're making stupid amounts of money. And that's why, I mean, Asia, Africa, India, that's why I targeted my friends, back in India, and like started doing my Minecraft thing. Is I exploded to like 108,000 followers. Most of them are in India and Africa in Minecraft, because
Africa might be the church headquarters by the end of the century.
Yeah.
well, yeah, and I mean it's
Africa.
because you don't need
That's funny.
if you want the social proof, like the baptismal numbers, right?
Yeah.
If you want the influencer proof, the baptism numbers, I mean, why would you not do that? Because you can easily get that many followers from that area. You know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
hard to do.
But Gene,
It's the
you
power
must
of scale.
you must be a dreamer, because they didn't give power up to South America when they were on the rise. Why would they do that to Africa?
There still were too many white leaders.
Exactly.
There weren't any black.
They're not giving up their power anytime soon if they can not.
South American leaders, right?
Wait. Are you guys saying that the church isn't in it for Jesus?
Who?
This has nothing to do with Jesus?
Well, here's the thing. It's not like, hey, what can we do for Jesus? Jesus, what can you do for us?
I
Well,
mean,
if Jesus if the man comes back, the world's going to be a shit show. There's no cashing out your investments. There's no getting your
I
money out
heard
of the
Jesus
bank.
might come back to Ulaanbaatar because that's where he's most known.
Who knows?
no, that's
Former
like
Dave,
Tel Aviv.
Diamond Dave.
Yeah, Jesus
That's
isn't
Tel
going to be
Aviv.
paying out bonuses. He's if he arrives, he has his iron rod and he's just gonna smash.
Well, and here's
Smash.
always the thing I never understood. If Jesus, I feel always like Mormons rob Jesus of his power, like truly. In the temple, he's just the negotiator going back, or not even negotiator, he's just the message man, right? So not much power.
He's
And
just
even if you
down.
think about, right? But even if you think about this, so Jesus was capable of feeding, what was it, thousands of people of 5 fish, but he cannot do the same thing, the same trick with money?
Well, no, because of inflation, and Jesus knows better.
And because we've run out of the Hellenistic fans of Jesus writing more superpowers for him.
Well, I think it depends on which Jesus. I mean, because which Jesus, and what I mean by that is like billions of people read the Bible and they interpret Jesus differently.
Yeah.
So it's like which interpretation of
one.
Jesus is a church following? I mean, arguably, you could make the case that
Caucasian
the church
Jesus.
the church is in it for
with the baby dinosaur.
Well, the church, you can make the case that the church is in it for Jesus if you look at Jesus through a very specific lens. You could, because of the parable of the talents, as well as Jesus also said, "I have not come to bring peace, or I've not come to bring unity, but division. Let he who does not have a sword sell his cloak and buy it." Right. So I feel like the church is more in line with that interpretation of Jesus, and they disregard the other things he said, my opinion.
Wasn't it Margaret Thatcher who said that the Good Samaritan wasn't just a Good Samaritan, he also had money too?
Yeah, to give. You need money
to
give money.
Yeah. But I do.
Kind of like Oral
So
Roberts.
that's what prevents me from being a good Samaritan then is money. Because otherwise I feel like helping people.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what Oral Roberts said in the late 80s, may he rest in peace, said that he didn't get this amount of money that he was going to die. You remember that, if you people of a certain age?
I remember that.
Yeah,
there was a period like Roberts,
a businessman did give him money in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, because he invested in that huge tower that nobody moved into, this massive office tower, and of course everyone who said that committed to signing leases for that building backed out, because by the time it was actually completed, it was so over budget that the lease rates were so high.
Yeah.
We're talking about the East Wing now again?
No, there was a massive.
Oh, that's another story, Gene.
So Hallie says that Jesus could feed 5 million people just asking the sisters to bring casseroles.
Yeah.
How about that?
Free casserole.
What were you saying, Alex?
The business tower that Oral Roberts built in Tulsa was eventually torn down, and his university, ORU, was eventually sold because he couldn't manage his money. So he wasn't absconded by aliens.
Yeah, and his son Richard couldn't taking it under.
Yeah.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, Randy.
Professional gambler.
Randy might have spotty
Randy's
internet.
on.
He's frozen.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he's frozen hard.
That's what a frozen margarita does to you.
Hey, yo, talking about Africa, talking about them talking about LDS going to Africa, and some of the Black Americans were talking about that were in the church that are out. They said when the members started talking about, yo, we're doing work in Africa, and they said, Africa. So what's that have to do with us? I'm from America. You all not dealing with us in America. Africa doesn't have anything to do with it. Yeah. Even Chanel Achenbach talked about that when she was on John Dillon. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Oh, yeah, and I mean the church is going to go in the interest of like the corporate side, right, as opposed to like the member side. And this is something that I touched on before, and this is why I can make the case, and I've said this multiple times, but I mean the church can afford to lose progressive Mormons who support like the LGBTQ and other things, because they can go to many parts of the world that are against that are more in line with their views and pull more members than they could in the United States.
Yeah.
And that's why they're not doing that. Oh my God, there's an echo.
Are you dressed green like money?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Randy? Safety. Hey, win some money for me, man.
Doing great, guys. I'm actually in Vegas here, and I'm sitting right at the moment with Miss Woozy.
Miss Woozy.
All right.
Oh.
And Amanda went potty, but she'll be back a little bit. I just wanted to pop in and say hello to everyone, and say that I wish I could be there, and I'm sorry I can't, but I wandered
And we
away
all wish
from
to
the.
be in Vegas, so don't do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. We are having a freaking blast.
Good.
I have family that live in Vegas. Say hello to them, Randy. I have
I will.
family out there.
Yeah. I already looked them up and said hello. So
Yeah, a lot of my
Anyway.
they're from Tallulah, Louisiana, my father's hometown.
nice. Well, I just wanted to give my love to y'all, and hope the show is going great.
Yes.
And I'll be back with bells on next week.
Sounds good.
Okay, guys. See ya.
All right, you take care, man. Hey, win some money for me, man. I need some money.
Okay, you got it.
I had to pay bills.
So he wasn't abducted by aliens.
Speaking of aliens, the only people that can match Jesus for not being here for dinner every year are the aliens.
Oh, the aliens.
Same present.
Jesus has been late for dinner for 2,000 years, and
Yeah.
yet people still put a setting out for him. Expect him to be here soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He comes like a thief in the night, so we'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, one thing I did want to bring up about like how much should the church give is okay, I'm not muted. Cool. Excuse me. One thing I did want to bring it up to is the church also, from a mathematical standpoint, does have to be careful in when it comes to like giving cash or liquid assets. It does have to be careful in how much it gives. It has to account for the inflation rate of the currency, right? Of the country that wants to give, right? Because I know a lot of people want, hey, why doesn't the church just dole out money to all these third world countries? Well, if we look at countries like Zimbabwe that has stupid amounts of cash, but the cash is worthless, right? There are many countries that are close to that point or could reach that point if you just dump a ton of money into it. Like if you look at the inflation rates, like say here in Mongolia, the rising inflation rates in India, or just other countries in Africa, if the church says, hey, we're going to give $50 billion to Uganda, that will kill their economy. People would starve to death, right?
I mean, that's all fine and good, but wouldn't you expect from $1 million organization to find a solution for that?
Well, and I mean, so here's the thing. It's like the definition of inflation at its core is too much currency pursuing too few goods and services.
So donating
right?
goods would be good.
So it would be better, and this is where Gene's point comes in. It would be better for the church to buy, right, with American cash, a lot of American goods, and then pay American cash to ship it to these countries.
Yeah.
That would be a solution. But from what, and I'm just responding not to you guys, but to what I see on the internet, where I see a lot of people be like, well, why doesn't the church just give these countries a bunch of money?
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm responding to that thing specifically, because there's a lot of people who are like, hey, we should just, spread the money out equally, right? If you give $50 billion to Uganda, it will kill their economy right now because there's not enough goods, services, or natural resources that can accommodate that currency.
Right. Yeah.
And you have hyperinflation. But to Gene's point, and to Jessica's point, even that is a solution that the church could do.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And Jesus never gave money to African countries. It's not in the Bible.
You also didn't end up in America. That's also not in the Bible.
That's right. The word Uganda is not in the Bible.
I know, right?
Uganda. You talking about Idi Amin's Uganda?
Idi Amin.
If people know about Idi Amin, the cannibal. The cannibalism.
Well, I mean, I'm Hindu, and I know a lot about that because
the cannibal.
Not just the cannibal, but so what ended up happening was
that's why Jesus is not going. They eat him.
Yeah. Well, so Idi Amin,
he's passed on now, but I don't know. I don't know how he's explain that to the Lord. Yeah.
Well, technically, we all eat him.
Oh, that's true.
As
Yes, you're
Christians,
right.
we all eat Jesus.
Yeah.
Yep. Now back to what Chuck was saying. So I know about it because there were a lot of Indian people that were dumped off in Uganda by the British, and the British left Uganda, right? Well, Idi Amin used the Indians and Hindus as a scapegoat, for their problems, and they were tortured, and a bunch of them fled. They had to turn over their businesses and things like that. Well, when he did that, and he took the businesses from people who knew how to run them and gave it to people who did not know how to run them, and his economy imploded. There was famine, there was starvation because they didn't know how to run businesses. And then he invaded Tanzania, which was a terrible idea because not only were his own people starving and upset at him, but also Tanzania militarily is much more powerful than Uganda, and they swept him. And he ended up, I think he fled to Saudi Arabia, I think, and lived.
He fled, he went to Saudi Arabia, one of those countries. And by the way, Forrest Whitaker played him in Last King of Scotland. That was a great movie. He won an Academy for that movie. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's cool.
So I think Jesus also, part of what he said was for people to give, alms to the poor. So it was sort of like a rallying cry to everybody who's a member to do what you can in your local areas. And so,
yeah. And I mean, to your point, the Apostle Paul himself says that true religion is taking care of the widows and orphans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the church could give each ward and stake a budget to do some local good wherever they are. That might be something that would be.
Which also is a weird thing in the Mormon church, right? Because when you pay tithing outside of the US, all tithing first go back to Salt Lake. Then they tell, by membership or whatever, they're.
Well, the money has to get blessed, Jessica.
Apparently physically, right? And then it will go back to the country, whatever they suit fit, right? And so that's another thing where I'm like, okay, why don't you leave the tithing money that those citizens paid in the country? If they need help because they don't have enough members, then they could do that. But why is it that always all the money needs to go to Salt Lake first, and then they say how much money you get?
Well, yeah, and there's actually, so I can actually talk on this for a second because that's a very good point. The church could do a lot of good. So in India, there's something called what's called a letter of undertaking, which is basically a letter of credit. You put down cash collateral, the bank gives you a credit line that you can use, right? So for instance, in India, the church could, if it wanted to actually have good publicity, it could go for a letter of undertaking in India where they use the tithing money as a cash collateral and then get a larger credit line to reinvest into that community for what they need, right? Exactly. And the basis for this, right, it's not, the basis for this is if you look at the Ambani family, the Patel family, or any other large Hindu families prominent families that give billions of dollars to the poor people. I mean, Anant Ambani at his wedding fed 50,000 people, 3,000 meals a day. He's worshipped as a god, right? Yeah. If you want that level of publicity in that specific country, that is one financial means of doing so. Other countries like in Africa, you have something similar too. And especially in Africa where there's been a lot of colonization, or in India where there's been a lot of colonization, to actually say we're not only going to keep the money in your country, but we're also going to invest in your country. That's going to get you very good publicity very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's true. And to that point, right, it's the other thing is I feel, at least the pattern, it seems that the Mormon church is normally not willing to invest in communities outside of their community, first of all. And also, they're not interested in countries that are not growing. That's even Germany. It's always on the cheap hand with Germany because we're not growing. There's no growth in membership, right? And so that's the funny thing. It's once a country has a success in baptism, But even then, I feel like it's the weirdest thing with the Mormon Church, where you're like, are you not interested in good PR? Are you not interested in, like supporting communities? It's almost really, it's a Utah church. Unfortunately, it's small thinking still, even though they are $1 billion corp or business, religion, whatever. And it seems still their thinking is stuck in, I think 1920, they were still in debt, right? They were in red numbers. They weren't good financially. And so I feel like the church is still thinking like this, even though they're not it anymore.
Okay, so in Matthew 6:2, when therefore thou doest thine alms, quote, and there's another, Luke 11:41 is give alms to such things as ye have. So the Greek word is actually ile imosinas and ile imosinin. And if I'm correct, that is based on the Greek word eleimon, or the root, which is eleos, which means mercy. There's nothing in those phrases to say anything about giving your shit to people who are poorer than you. It's being merciful.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to approach that or engage in an anti-apologetic, which is to go in opposition to what the church is saying, point that out. It's like the original Greek is to give mercy, not to give money. It's give mercy. So what is mercy? Is the church going to define what mercy means in this instant? Does it mean 10%, or does it mean something else entirely? And the one time that I had a really great conversation, the one and only really great conversation I had with a Mormon apologist, was his interpretation of the overturning of the tables in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
And his interpretation, and I wish I knew this guy's name, or I remembered it at least. He said that it wasn't that a madman or a preacher had come in from the wastes and toppled all the bankers' tables over. That's probably happened several times before, because bankers inside the temple is one thing. Being, lending money is another thing altogether. But what he did, according to this Mormon apologist, was that he toppled the temples in such a way that the jars of coins mixed together. And that was a testament to the priests themselves, who were the lenders, that they were so corrupt that they didn't actually know how much money they really had. So they ended up having to blame someone else for the problems that they were experiencing, because they lost most of their money because it was mixed in with a pile of all the other coins.
But you know what I find interesting, and that's kind of the point, Dave, and he's right. The problem really with that book is there are so many interpretations. Then we have language issues and translation issue. If I would be a God of the universe and I want to help my children, and I write them a manual, a book.
Goddess.
I'm just saying, right? Like, let's stick with that. So why writing such a shitty, uncertain book where there's so many people interpreting it right and left how they need it? Why not a clear manual that tells me what means, and not that word could mean this, and now that we're in the 21st century, that word actually means this now, and for them and their culture it meant that. How is that helpful in any way?
The Lord does not need your money.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean well, to your point, and this is what I was going to get to, and I'm glad you brought this up, but it's basically legalese, right? Because if the church were to make a definitive statement, right, and this is why I think it errs on the side of philosophy as opposed to like finance, is if you err on the side of philosophy, right, we can have these discussions and there can be multiple interpretations and you have a lot of legal leeway to do it. Once you make a financial statement, then people like me and every other financial lawyer under the sun will just tear you to shreds, right? So like they're doing their very best to not lock themselves into one thing because they're preparing for the future, but they're also trying to cover their butt retroactively, because many countries, even the US, does have laws around finance where if a law changes, it can be retroactive, right? It can go back X amount of years or X amount of months, depending on what it is.
That's if the law is written without a date. then it's since
well, true, but
yeah.
the church doesn't know entirely if a law is going to be written with a date or not, so it's got to cover its butt either way.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Is that the reason? I'm just listening to you all talking about how things going in the faith, and is this kind of like in these mega churches with the people, the big money giving people sit at the front? Is that the way LDS operate? That the big money people sit up front? Is it that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say from my experience, just in other Christian churches, yes. And so for what Chuck is referring to, for people who may not know, people who sit at the front, it's the equivalent of people who are called to be like apostles or Area 70s, right? It's recognition. So if you're a big donor, if you have the clout, if you're good friends with the pastor, right? Or if you're good friends with the bishop, you get pulled into the Area 70, you get pulled into the stake presidency, you become an apostle.
Okay, that's where the 70 comes in. Okay.
I think in Mormonism, it's more authority that trumps everything than your donation, because theoretically everybody gives just 10%, and then a little bit of nepotism, your distance to somebody who is in charge. That gets you the calling, right? If you work for the church, most likely, I mean, ideally you live in Utah, because I don't think percentage-wise percentage-wise is mostly Utah people in authority. Yes, you have your trophy German apostle and your trophy here and there, but you have to have literally geographically, you need to be close to Utah.
Yeah. And then on top of that, to Jessica's point does connect with Chuck's point, is the big money donors. You look at the apostles. Show me an apostle that doesn't have a multi-million-dollar business. There's tons of them.
That's actually just recently. Faust was pretty poor, didn't have much money. That's just the last decades when it was like lawyers and doctors and businessmen who became apostle. But that's not forever. There were a couple of apostles who did not make money, sold cars, had old shoes. So I think it's a mixed bag. And it just became like that because maybe they also picked more successful people because maybe it looks better. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I would say
what I'm referring
Russell
to
Nelson was a medical doctor.
More recent, it's more recent, and they're going for the high end look. And this is something, and put on your conspiracy theory hats. But my opinion, my conspiracy is, because we live in the age of influencers, the church cannot afford to choose an average Joe. They have to do a doctor. They have to do a lawyer. They have to do a multi-million-dollar business owner, because, like Chuck was saying, in other churches, mega churches, Creflo Dollar, TD Jakes, right? It's the
Benny Hinn in Orlando, Florida.
Exactly, Benny Hinn, like all of them.
Yeah, with the hand pushing back.
Yeah, the big money donors and the people with names and the people with business influence brings influence, because everyone wants to be like them. Everyone wants to be like their influencer, their favorite influencer. So the church now,
Joel Osteen in Houston. Yeah.
See, the Germans only send a pilot.
The pilot is the most beloved of all of them.
I know, that's the funny thing.
I mean, I will bash the church all day long, and I don't agree with everything Uchtdorf says, but Uchtdorf is like, I still want to make an AI video of like Uchtdorf flying a jet, singing Danger Zone, shooting down like other planes, and then it transitions into him just like dancing at General Conference, still singing Danger Zone.
And
even Creflo Dollar has $65 million. Yeah, Creflo Dollar has $65 million jet he asked for, and he got the money. They ended up getting the money to get his private jet.
Yeah,
I said okay.
But to Uchtdorf's point, which is so interesting, right? I mean, he's not a rich man. He's also not a poor man, right? It's like good middle class man. And he was very loved. I mean, also almost like a little crush for your 40 middle-aged white woman, right? Because kind of handsome silver fox. And yet they did silence him, right? Think about it. He's not that much more on the front. So it seems like he's not hip enough, not rich enough. Maybe that's also why.
I just
That
want to
sound like
say
me.
this to I just want to say this to Jessica's point. I would say that there's a fandom of Uchtdorf that is like unhealthy because there are women
Exactly.
like I'm 37, but I've seen 20-year-old women who literally want to get pregnant by Uchtdorf, right? It's wild to me. I
Yeah.
don't understand it, but it is a thing,
Okay.
Yeah,
right?
definitely there is some drooling.
There's too much drooling, and but whatever. Like, you know.
Well, he wasn't.
So that-
he's not.
I get-
He's not the first German to get women all bothered in their knickers when he speaks.
Well, the difference between Uchtdorf and the other one is Uchtdorf didn't start World War II.
Yeah.
Like, just saying.
And it's very, very harmless in all senses.
I'm just making a
actually.
broad comparison, guys. I'm not saying anything specific. Just a broad brush here.
Sure.
I am drinking German beer, so I will get very specific.
Wagner.
Cheers to that.
Wagner had women who were very excited to see him whenever he showed up.
Mozart too.
Oh, what's my Richard Wagner? It's my Richard Wagner. The composer. Yeah.
I would say Beethoven, but he wasn't.
Look like Richard Wagner.
Well,
His
Mozart
name, Richard
theoretically
Wagner.
neither.
I do have a quick question since we're on the topic of Germany. This is Kaltenberg. Is this a real German brand, Jessica? Or
I'm
is this
Mormon.
like a
You
fake
really
one?
think I'm a beer expert?
You're German, so I mean,
I can
I'm
Google
giving-
it. I have
What's
not heard.
what's the name of that one? What's the name of that one?
It's
Dave?
called
Kaltenberg.
Kaltenberg.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
real place. I don't know if it's a real beer.
Okay.
I was going to say, is
Yeah.
this a real German beer or is this a knockoff? Because I know
This is a
Jessica's
knockoff.
Mormon, but she is German, and I have to believe
A
that
lot of-
Jessica has like been to grocery stores at some point in her life.
Yeah, but always as a Mormon. I became ex-Mormon in Texas. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
But I googled it. It is a German beer.
German
It's
beer.
legit.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Okay, so it's a real German beer. Okay.
I used to drink a lot of those beers, man. It happened when I was younger, but now I mess with that now. Look at the health changes.
Germans make good beer. I will say that.
Yes, we do.
We also have good music.
We also have good music.
Oh,
yeah.
there's an echo.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Chuck, mute.
Oh yeah, I think it's Chuck.
I think it's Chuck.
Yeah, there's a but yeah, so it's like the tax situation and the financial situation with the Mormons is like really interesting to me. It's also really interesting to me that it's an issue in the first place. And the reason why I say this is if you look at other religions, if you look at Islam, nobody in Islam cares that Saudi Arabia is building a $5 billion moon, right? Like nobody cares, right? They have billion-dollar projects, trillion-dollar projects that never go anywhere. Nobody cares. India, same thing, right? Other religions, same thing. But in Mormonism specifically, it becomes problematic. I don't have the answer as to why that is, but I do think it's interesting that when it comes to just Mormons in general, the total wealth of the church is problematic, right? Because other religions like Islam has alms, right?
Catholics too.
Yeah, Catholics too. No, but Catholics have alms. No Catholic cares that the Vatican is uber wealthy. No Muslim cares, despite the alms that there are oil fields in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. You look at Abu Dhabi, and I mean, a lot of the alms that were used, the tithing money for Islam, was used for a Formula One circuit. Nobody cares.
Maybe the difference is the transparency, because I think, at least I remember, maybe because Catholics were always aware that they had a ton of money, and maybe Muslims too, because the thing is, Mormons until 2018 had no awareness. We did not know how much money our church is worth.
I mean, that could be it. I don't have an answer to this.
Me neither. I'm just guessing and throwing out stuff too. So that's, I was just thinking when you said it, I'm like, yeah, why do we maybe struggle with it? I think one is transparency, and the other is this I would say the narrative still though was fed. And the church was, what I understand, poor until 1940, 50, when they finally, wasn't it even Hinckley who started the whole Ensign Peak thing? So it's kind of a recent thing when they finally became successful with money. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's like a family. You know, when a family becomes from nothing and all of a sudden they get a ton of money and they still can't change their mindset about it. They still live in their head poor, even though money is on the account.
I mean, I can see that. That makes sense. And it's kind of curious to me, just not just that, but the split. Because again, you have the Jacob Hansons and the Ward Radios. They're like, make it $1 trillion. And I'm like, you know what? Personally, if the Mormon church becomes $1 trillion church, good for you. I legit do not care so long as you follow the local laws of whatever country you're operating. I legit don't care. Right. But on the flip side, it's interesting just for me to observe that, and maybe you could be right, because I know that Zions Bank historically, originally, before it was Zions Bank, Joseph Smith made like an anti-bank. I forget the name of it. And it could have been Zions Bank, but
maybe, yeah.
So that failed, right? And so it's like there's a poverty mentality there, but now that it's wealthy, there's kind of a split of how people see the church and what it should do with its wealth. And I don't see that anywhere else in any religion or even in any other part of just American society.
True, yeah.
People in general, I mean, sure, you have like the anti-billionaire crowd, but I mean, generally speaking, it's like if you could
it's
justify
capitalism to the T.
Sure, but if you could justify it making millions of dollars, if you could justify it and then you give away millions of dollars, right? Nobody cares. If I
And
make
you have prosperity gospel who totally goes aligned with that too. So it's kind of
exactly, and it's
double
like
edged sword.
if I were to make $100 million a year and I give away $80 million, kept $20 million for myself, no one would care, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of goes back to the philosophical question, which is interesting to me. It's like, how much of a percentage should the church give?
That's the question.
And another aspect I would go into from a financial background is just what aspect, like where would it come from? Is it all liquid assets? Would it be a mixture of liquid and illiquid? Should they get into gold? How does that work?
Yeah. Chuck, you wanted to say something?
Go for it, Chuck.
He's raising the whole time. Yeah. You need it.
Oh yes. I was looking. Is Zion Bank still in existence in Salt Lake? I remember when I went to Salt Lake City in 2009. I remember seeing those I remember when I arrived in the airport, Salt Lake International. I remember seeing signs of Zion Bank. Is it still open?
Yes, it's still open, and there's also branches in Provo and I think St. George as well as other parts. It's very much a Utah bank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They also, I just Googled it. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints transitioned from near bankruptcy in the early 1960s to vast wealth today. This transformation began under N. Eldon Tanner, who implemented strict corporate budgeting and invested surplus tithing. By the 1990s and 2000s, the compounding fund grew into a multi-billion-dollar portfolio.
I will say, too, I do have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
This has been talked about by other people, by faithful members like Ward Radio. Shout out to the LDS Church, because one of the things that made them millions of dollars was they predicted GameStop. Like, it's a video game company, right? So it's like the Blockbuster of video games. If you don't know, you go to GameStop, you can buy games, you can trade in video games, you can trade in your video game consoles. They shorted the stock of GameStop at the right time when GameStop imploded, and I do have to say the timing on that was impeccable.
So there's also some extra information. So in the late 1950s and 60s, the church was pretty much broke. Supposedly there was a week when they didn't know if they could pay their secretaries at the church offices. Enter N. Eldon Tanner, who had made a fortune in Canada, Alberta, through insider trading in the oil industry. There were no laws against it at the time. He insisted that the church should be investing rather than just spending money as it came in. There was some pushback, should a church be investing? But he won the day, and by the 1970s, the church was on firm financial footing, and they upped the percentage of their contribution to building local chapels from less than half to eventually 100%. There you go.
There's buildings named after him.
Yeah.
And
Seems to be the hero of the day.
Well, he applied financial discipline, and
Yes.
the whatever float. A float is the money that you have kind of setting around before you have to spend it.
Yeah.
He simply put that in the bank, and
Did
they
reason-
then engaged in this weird circular financial mechanism that allowed that float to then generate a lot of revenue.
Exactly. And then
as-
to that point,
as
also,
investment income.
that what the church struggled, then you have another prophet who said, once we have enough money, we will not ask members for tithing anymore. And yet, when is that day official there?
That's John. That was John. That was the J.F. Smith.
Yeah, Joseph. F.
No,
Smith.
that was the first J.F. Smith. Not Joseph Fielding, his father.
Yeah,
He's the
but
one
either
that
way,
said-
so what do you do with that, right? When is it enough? When you ask members not for money anymore?
Here we go into philosophy again, because this is outside my thing. Like,
Yeah, we fall back into is it charity or is it mercy? Which is preferable?
Will it start when
is
hell
it charity?
freezes over?
Is it charity?
Yeah, yeah.
When hell freezes over, I put it. Just
And
let that
since
sink
there's
in.
no hell in Mormonism, never.
I mean, there technically is a hell. Nobody goes there though.
Yeah, outer
so-
darkness, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's actually not hell and hot and fire and brimstone. It's dark and cold, maybe.
and isolating. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I heard that it was like it's more cold because the love
Right.
of God is warmth. So it's more like cold and isolating.
Distant. Yeah, exactly.
Distant, which sounds like paradise to me because I could use it.
For an introvert,
I
it's
love
paradise.
when it's cold. I mean, like right now here in Mongolia, it is June 1st and it is 41 degrees Fahrenheit.
Ooh, that is fresh. Yes.
Yeah, so it's like I love it cold. So that sounds like paradise to me. Yeah, it's this is why I love these panels. It's because it's like
But Dave, do you enjoy desert winters? Do you like the cold and dry and?
Yes,
you do. Okay.
Yes,
It's the desert summer for Diamond Dave, though.
Because you have you have soft, oily skin there on the face, Dave. The desert winters, they don't. Yeah.
I
they're
am
not good
part
for the
scan. Well, so here's the thing. I mean, I do have psoriasis, but here's the thing. It's like I like my joints will lock up, but I am heavily Scandinavian on my mother's side, so it's like genetically I'm used to it. Like here in Mongolia, we had a couple days where we had power outages. It was like 3 or 4 days, I believe, if I remember correctly, where it was like 57 degrees negative 57 Celsius,
Ooh.
which is negative 75, right? And I mean, it didn't like it's cold, but it doesn't really bother me. I enjoy it.
Plus, he
Right.
has yak balm that he could
Yeah.
spread all over his face.
I actually don't do skincare. I do. I have sometimes, but I don't do it consistently. But yeah, so it's like that it's interesting because it's like when it comes to the church, there's the element of philosophy, which is murky, but there's the element of finance, which is very, very cut and dry. It's
But don't
very
forget, Dave, philosophies of the devil. You get taught that in the temple.
well, and this is the ironic thing is, I mean, it's of the devil, but then you have philosophers that go on Jacob Hansen and Ward Radio and they talk about philosophy. So what are we looking at?
It's like the tiger's bomb in
Yes.
Thailand.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, obviously it was more like ironic, but to your point, Dave, I feel every talk in general conference is entrenched with philosophy.
I thought that was Middle Eastern. And when I looked at the lettering, I thought it was Middle Eastern when Gene held it up.
No, that's
you said Thailand.
That's Thailand. That's
Okay.
Thailand.
All right. I was looking at the lettering. Yeah. Okay. All right.
To Jay's point, no, don't need a generator. We're good. Oh, echo again. There's an echo again. Yeah, don't need a generator. We're good.
We have one in Texas because we had power outages in winter and those sucked.
Well, Texas doesn't have real winters though. Like,
Ooh, I grew up in Texas, sweetie, and so there's nothing separating Texas from the North Pole except a wire fence. It's had plastic bags stuck to it for 15 years.
Here's the thing. I grew up in Minnesota where it's colder than the North
Tiny
Pole.
soda?
I grew up in Minnesota. Yeah, tiny soda. I mean, I know people that have frozen to death in their own homes because of power outages during the winters.
Oh yeah, I mean we don't have a winter season. It's definitely a short season. Yeah,
frostbite. I've never heard of Texas getting negative 75 or negative 80 below zero. Right.
Yeah,
That's
the thing
what
about Texas winters is the temperature drops, but it doesn't stay there.
Yeah.
That's what makes life a little bit easier.
It could be 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have an idea. I'll end the show. I'll
Yeah.
put out in the comments one more time for people who want to come to the after show.
Sounds good.
Come in. I got
All
one
right.
there. I got one there.
I'm gonna check on out of here. I go check on my folks.
All right.
Nice
Thanks,
chatting
Chuck,
with you
for
all.
checking in.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Jack.
All right, you all take care. Have a great week.
You too.
All right.
You too.
All right.
And thanks everybody for watching. Have a great rest of